Look at me calling him buddy. Like he's like, why did he just call me buddy? I don't like this guy at all. James, welcome back to the podcast. I'm sorry to keep you on hold for so long, but I wanted to bring you in as soon as we possibly could.
Well, if you're going to keep me on hold for someone, it may as well be Lee Dixon.
If I had kept you on hold for like Eoin, for example, that would have been the wrong thing to do.
I'd be fuming.
So, welcome to hour 19 of the podcast. You're getting somewhat tired, but less tired than I thought I'd be, Mike. Remember, if you want to ask a question of James, you can come on into the chat and actually do that yourself. Go to gooneropenmic.com and join us live. Just don't let the question be medicine news or something like that. Your Twitter handle, James, says CBS Sports soccer correspondent. Mm-hmm. Soccer? Really? Does that kill you? Does you die a little bit every night?
No, I'm increasingly like getting quite aggressively pro the word soccer. So I don't know how aware. I mean, obviously, we all know that soccer is like originally an English, like a very English word, and it's an extremely English word. It's a contraction of association football.
Yep.
Soccer is basically it's the Oxford is the easiest way of putting it. So you would have sort of great example of thanks, Amir. A great example of this might be how people refer to McDonald's in the United Kingdom as Maccas. Or for instance, if you, and I don't know how aware you guys are of radio institution Test Match Special, how they would refer to people like Jonathan Agnew as Aggers, Brian Johnson as Johners. That's where soccer comes from. It comes from that same contraction that all people who went to Oxford University, including myself, love dropping that into conversation, that all people enjoy, that's kind of its original birthplace. Actually, my official title is, or I believe I've kind of got the title now, Soccer Insider, but I both love that and hate it for the same reason that it makes me sound like I'm stuck in a football, like I'm zorbing or something. So, yeah, exactly. I've got Oxford News, Reese Oxford News.
So that's going to be like the secret word. Like anytime someone just mentions Oxford, we get the bell and $1,000 goes to the winner.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I actually grew up and Boyce throws it here. He says, and the Irish call it soccer because of Gaelic football. Mm. I disagree. That's a real pet peeve of mine. Football is football and Gaelic is Gaelic. It's the same as Americans. It's like, I forget what movie it is in. Is it Mike Bassett or something like that, where they say that how often is the ball at your feet in American football? You've got no right to claim the word football. So
the punter is the only guy that gets to do that. It's stupid. I hate it. When I talk about football, it's when I talk about proper football, it's football. When I talk about like my son's league or his high school team that he plays on or MLS, soccer. I call it soccer because it's just. You could end up looking like a right douche if you like are in the stands with at a high school soccer game with a bunch of other American parents around, and you're like, "Did you just see him kick the football?" Like they're just gonna be like, "Oh, who the hell is this guy?"
I should also point out that like if I say football at CBS Sports, I'm gonna get a fuckload of people asking me about Deshaun Watson or Tom Brady, and I'm going to be like, I don't fucking like. I watched the Super Bowl, and like I watched that Nickelodeon CBS thing.
My god!
Oh, how brilliant! Fantastic work by my company. I do enjoy how. Annoyed people get about me calling it, and when people sort of reply back and go, "You obviously don't know what you're talking about because you've got soccer on your handle," and it's like, well, I used to have about 4 separate uses of the word football when I worked for Football.London. Mm-hmm. Deal with it.
I'm starting a new website, by the way, called Soccer.London.
I can't believe they haven't bought that.
We're gonna I don't know if they have or not, but we're gonna become the new training ground for top football reporters. Just everybody that people care about these days has at some point, either currently or in the past, gone through football.london. It is literally the destination to go. And then and even one of our very good friends has just gotten a job that's related to Reach.
It's
either that or he's got a reach around. I don't know which one.
Yeah, I'm trying to work that one out. I like what Dublin Gooner says there. It says, let's compromise and call it Fokker. I think that could be a trend that we could go for.
That could
might
be
a bit awkward kind of walking into the press box. I don't really want to be. But
see, I was just going to ask James there, because would be absolutely tarnished on Twitter if we had you on and didn't ask you about what I'm sure is your favorite subject in the world to talk about. That is transfers. I was talking to Chris Wheatley yesterday evening, and I asked him the question about.
Did he go to Oxford?
Just name dropping. No, he didn't. I didn't even finish school, man. So you're a good company here. Anyway, yeah, I was asking him about the fact that Arsenal have this reputation of moving slowly through the transfer window in comparison to some other teams. What do you think is the reason for that? Do you think it's just the lack of sales, or do you think that Arsenal just are indeed maybe slower at others than progressing their business? When you're looking at these deals and links coming up, what is it do you think that is really slowing Arsenal down in this market in particular?
So, I mean, the reputation is well earned, but I think a lot of that goes back to Arsene Wenger, where it was genuinely an approach of kind of dithering, like not quite making that crystal. Lovely to see him.
Daniel Craig, as I said.
We saw more of him than we wanted to see. But.
Yeah, a little bit. Not making the sort of this is what we're going to do decision until quite late in the window. And that's why you kind of had I remember that. Do you remember the time he went to Paris? I think it was in 2015, 2016, desperately trying to find any striker he could in the Parisian metropolitan area. Sadly didn't come back with Mbappe. That's maybe a story for another time.
Had a cup of coffee with his mom though, didn't he?
He did. No, they were really close. So he told me
had so many cups of coffees with moms. And
he said to me, he thought they were. He said to me that he thought they were about 3 months. If he'd had the conversation and the coffee 3 months earlier, Mbappe would have gone to Arsenal. That's how close. And Mbappe would have loved to have played for Wenger, is what I've always heard. But I think at the moment,
we still got the opportunity. I mean, I would have Wenger back if it meant Mbappe coming to Arsenal.
Let's call a spade a spade. If things don't go perfectly for Poch, Wenger's got to be in that mix, hasn't he?
Wow, can you imagine that?
Well, I don't know. I think I'll get back to the transfer thing in a moment. But I think doesn't everyone at Arsenal, everyone that likes Arsenal, they know that now he's not going to win it with Arsenal. But I'd love for Arsene Wenger to win the Champions League.
I think he would flourish with a team like that. Like let's not go away off here. The fact is that even in the later stages, and we'll probably only appreciate it now, is that Arsene Wenger still produced a lovely style of football, and with those players at his disposal, it can suit him perfectly. That's why I think a lot of people have made the shout before as well that he should have taken the France international job as well, because I think he would be very well suited to that, sort of where his sole purpose is just to coach the players.
Yeah, exactly. The joy of that PSG team is you do literally just sort of go, all right, lads, give it a go. And you encourage them, obviously that's not what he did, but you make sure they know that they can try whatever they want, they can do whatever they want, and they have license to fail, which let's be honest, the whole PSG setup is very much like Neymar and Mbappe have license to do whatever they want. But he would be a perfect coach to them. But kind of looping back to the transfer stuff, I don't quite think that's as true anymore. Arsenal have spent £70 million without recouping a penny this summer, which, as Arteta was saying this morning, I don't know if you guys missed it or whatever, that, the Cronkies are backing him. And I think he did say, and I think that must be true, because there isn't £70 million cash lying around at Arsenal. The issue is whether they're backing the right people and whether they've taken too long to make the right decisions. But £50 million on Ben White, that's an aggressive move. And I think that's a move that could be done and was one they really wanted to do early. So he had time to train with his new teammates. He'll have had, 2 weeks of pre-season training. not too bad going into tomorrow night's game. Then you kind of come to the Ødegaard or the attacking midfielder. From what I've heard, it's all been about really, they've been willing to wait to know what's going on with Ødegaard. A lot of talk about who the favoured option is. But I think it always comes down to numerous factors. And they wanted to know whether Ødegaard was going to be available before they hit the nail on the head about Maddison, who's a huge investment and one that would be really tough to make without big sales and would pose a lot of sort of questions about how you then use Smith Rowe, how you use other players. If you're buying James Maddison, you're buying him to be someone you play at that price. He's someone you have to build you kind of feel compelled to build a squad around. So I think sometimes you do have to just leave things till later in the window than you might like to be super clear on how much money you have to spend, who is going, who is staying. Same with goalkeeper situation as well. You need to make the most informed decisions you can. And sadly, if you're a club like Arsenal and you've got a lot of pretty average players on very high wages that you're going to need to really incentivize to move on, those decisions don't become available to you until really late in the window. So that doesn't absolve Edu of some responsibility, but I think they've done all right given the window. Do you
think the Ben White move, with hindsight, of course, I think Ben White's an absolutely fantastic player, and I think he'll be very, very good for us for many years to come. But do you think that was possibly a bit of a naive move to target what a lot of fans would say was nowhere near the top priority position for us in this transfer window?
A hard one, because everyone says the defense points to the defense being better last season, but you've lost David Luiz, and I thought Arsenal were at their best defensively when you had Gabriel and Luiz, or at the very least, a sort of balance between defense and attack. Like if you roll into the season with Rob Holding and Pablo Mari, we saw this against Chelsea. You've got to play a really deep. You can't play a high line. You've got to play really deep. You've got to be reactive. I think Ben White, if he is the right player, and we don't know yet, but I think the attributes he has are so important to Arsenal that there is real value in getting that one done earlier. And the other thing I would say is, going into Friday night's game, you've got Emile Smith-Rowe, you've got a really good quality number 10, you've got Saka, I hate to say it, you've got Willian, you've got loads of players that can plug that gap between now and August 31st. And I said this last night with Faisal on Latte Fan, where people just, I think to an extent, it's just a bit, you want the sexy signings. You want
James. So we're calling FK Faisal now. I like that. I never knew what the F stood for. What does the K stand for?
Khan, I believe.
Okay, excellent. Well,
those are the ones that get people off their seats. I don't think many. When I was at the Emirates, didn't see many people with White 4 on their back. If it's Maddison 8 or Ødegaard 11, watch those shirts. Well, we'll see about Ødegaard. But watch those shirts fly off the shelves. People want that. It's exciting. It's cool. It's sexy. But it's not the position that you need to have sorted for the Brentford game. You need the centre back, and you actually need a backup goalkeeper, and that's a big problem. But
look who's in the house. We've got 3/5 of the Kroenke crew in the Hizzle right now, but Andy making his appearance in hour number 19.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Live from Titletown.
I'm in Milwaukee. I woke up. I thought I'll log on. I looked at the Periscope and I was like, "Is Benge wearing a bow tie?"
Does look like
it does.
That would be the exact opposite of how you were dressed the first time we met you. I was the one wearing the bow tie that day.
How is everyone? And you look so tired.
I'm good. I had some sleep and then I slept longer than expected. But no, going strong, buddy. Going strong. It's very nice of you to drop in at this stage.
Yeah.
Are you wearing a neck pillow?
No, that's just my muscular shoulders. I'm laying down.
Oh, you're laying down. I was like, it looks like you're wearing a neck pillow. I was like, did you have a rough flight? Like what? Oh, wait, hold on. Wrong one.
That's what, yeah.
Let's
That
get
does
the
look like a
full
neck
let's
club.
get the full sexiness here that's going on. So you're lying on your stomach doing a podcast right now.
Basically.
You're the opposite of Chig right now.
Do you know what's super strange? So we flew in and we drove to my friend's house, who basically bought a home four houses down from where I went to uni. And so I'm just like, this is strange for me. There's a lot of weird.
Place?
No, I'm meeting him tomorrow. I'm actually at my friend's house, who's a big West Ham supporter. Ryan.
Good.
Yeah, and he's got a book, and it says like West Ham history from 1908. So I asked him if it was just one page long, and he basically said yes.
So, well, first of all, tell Serge I said hi, and
I will
thank him for his donation that he made yesterday. He hasn't.
He made one.
Yet,
Excellent.
But there's still a chance, even though he's a Chelsea supporter. But James, you to take it off of Arsenal for just a second. You had recently spoken to Christian Pulisic. And I wouldn't normally take much interest in an interview with a Chelsea player, but as an American, as as someone who has a child who plays football, soccer, and a couple years younger than Christian, just watching his career with fascination, saying this guy is like 17 when he first really came on the scene, 17 going on 27. Whereas I've seen Gideon Zelalem, who was 17 going on 8. But like, I take great interest in his career, as long as he's not playing and scoring against Arsenal. But a good portion of the interview that you did with him was about mental health. And, in the wake of kind of the highly publicized focus on that, Simone Biles, Naomi Osaka, and it's really been a good trend to see a spotlight shined on mental health in professional sport. Because I've always marveled at these men children who are 20, 18, 17, 16 years old, and how some of them can be so mature for their age or appear to be that way and just seem, Teflon to the world that they're living in. And it's just things aren't always as they seem. Is that right, James?
Yeah, I think that's really true. I think with Christian, it's really hard to kind of get your head into the space that someone like Christian has had to occupy for a really long time. Because, when we were 17, 18, and then going right up to, the age he is now, he's still only 22. We were all still at college, university. Very few of us had taken any steps in our lives to grow and to develop and to take responsibility. And right now, Christian is breadwinner for his family, or he's away from his family. He's been away from his family for.
His family still live in Hershey?
They do, yeah. And
Hershey about 2 hours from where I live, and a really, really cool city. When I found out he was from Hershey, I went nuts because that's really close.
I feel like one thing we can bond over is I'm from near Bourneville, which you may or may not be aware is Cadbury land.
My God. I'll take Cadbury over Hershey any day.
I quite like it. I think it's the exoticism of it. But yeah, so talking to him, and it was really interesting. I think it's kind of well known that it can be hard to get stuff out of Pulisic at times. And I was really impressed with how open and willing he was to address these things and to say, that he found it hard to not be strong, because you have to. You always think, for him to have got to where he is now, not just playing for Dortmund and then for Chelsea, two massive clubs, but also to carry the weight of a nation that's growing increasingly mad for soccer, that is incredibly tough. And I can't imagine that it's a life that would allow you to feel weak, right. Or to feel to admit that you're out of control, or to admit that you're finding something hard. And
it bottles up then in that situation, doesn't it? I mean, you're like, I have to be this person. I have to be immune to this, but you just, at some point, you just can't be anymore.
Yeah. And it doesn't help you. And I think that's one of for him, it was having someone that he could talk to and say these things to. And yeah, it must be so. And I think particularly at Chelsea, there's so much talk about a club like Chelsea. There's so much talk about you. I think, it's an occupational hazard that every summer, I mean, on the subject of Hazard, he's taken that number 10 shirt off one of the greatest players ever to have played for the club. But there's an occupational hazard that every summer, be it Lukaku,
an occupational hazard.
Hazard, be it Lukaku, be it Havertz, be it Werner. There's going to be someone trying to take your place, and you've got to balance that with, being someone whose every kick, everything is analysed in huge depth by a big footballing community. I think that's really hard, and like huge credit to him for being honest enough to share these stories. I think it helps a lot. You just know that this summer, I think, has been so powerful for hearing athletes in whatever sport they are just go, actually, if I'm going to be a top tier competitor, if I'm going to be at my very best, this isn't just about my hamstrings and my ankles and all that. It's about how I'm feeling.
There's a sea change going on right now, and I mean we're seeing so many in sport. We're seeing a sea change in acceptance of LGBTQ in professional sports. We're seeing feelings becoming more important and accessible. And I think I could be accused of being a snowflake. I'm a big snowflake. Call me that if you want. I just believe that people should be nice to other people and understanding of other people. And, it is a generational thing. And especially in football, especially in English football, I think, it's going to take a long time before some of this, what they would consider softness or snowflakeness is truly accepted. But I think it can only have a positive impact on the people in the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're talking. Sorry. Go ahead, James.
No, I don't really want to add to that. I think that's fantastic.
Because we're doing this. Well, I should say you guys are doing this 24-hour PODATHON. The mental health that is connected to this cancer as well. Like, as we were just mentioning, my buddy Serge had this. And like, that's his biggest thing right now is the mental, like he's clear of it. I don't think he's in remission yet. Technically, I think he still has another year, but
I thought he was in remission. I didn't realize he was.
They pushed it back. So I think that they've like extended the remission for people with the disease an additional like 18 to 24 months. But, he said, hey, anything, whenever I get a cold, whenever I get down, like he's like, it's just shit, this is happening again. Because that's how he basically found out. He thought he had a cold and went to the doctors with a lump. And they were like, hey, you've got to go in for chemo tomorrow. So, if you know someone that's struggling or had cancer or whatever, like ask if they're okay. Cause he brought it up to a group of friends and we're all like, shit, you don't think about that, So whilst we're here talking about it, I suppose to the people in the chat who are listening, ask those people just, hey, are you all right? And
I'm seeing more and more stuff on Twitter. The thing that's still good about Twitter, as big of a cesspool as it can be, I've seen some people who I'm fairly close to, relatively close to, have just they've popped up on Twitter and said, you know what, I'm not doing all right. I need some help. Anybody around? And then response. I'm here for you. I'm here for you. Zooms are open. Someone the other day made a comment, and I think Dave Seeger basically said, who we all love and appreciate and has had his share of tragedy in his life, has said, give me a call. I'm available. And so there's just so much acceptance. And we had a great hour earlier this morning with John Smythe. I forgot to ask him if it was Smith or Smythe, but and his family friend, Max, who lost his mother to cancer about a month ago. And they had a tweet that went viral worldwide, and the support pouring in for them. For Max from the Arsenal fan base is just amazing. And I just, at the risk of being redundant and repetitive in what is a 24-hour podcast that people are coming in and out of, that is the Arsenal fan base, not this, announce hour, not this Madison news, not this, Arteta out. That's a very, very small portion of the fan base. What makes Arsenal special is the openness and the community that we have, and people should never forget that.
So true.
Absolutely.
So we have a question from Aston, James, which getting back to the
big stuff.
Yeah, getting back to the important stuff. Why aren't Arsenal going for more?
Can I just go back on that? I mean,
yeah.
Just on the, I'm going to answer this question within it because it's interesting. But it has now got to the stage this summer, I feel like, where if you're not talking about transfers, there is and I completely agree with you. This is a vocal minority, but it becomes this thing of like, if you're not talking about transfers, there are those people that believe it's not football. Great example of this was I had no idea, and no one else had any idea what was going on with Gabriel before when preseason started. No one had seen him, and you think that might be a question worth asking there. What's going on? And there are idiots on the platform. We go, why didn't you ask about transfers? Go, well, but anyway, sorry, that's a complete tangent. But
what do you mean about what was going on with Gabriel?
Out injured, isn't he? I believe he's now out till September.
No idea.
Yeah, I know that he got pulled out of the kind of the Olympic duty, but I didn't realize it was that significant. I didn't know we were going to be missing him for the
Pretty much, I would think, until after the international break, because being now a lengthy injury, he's missed the Olympics and.
So everyone we signed last summer is now missing. Is it possible, James? And I don't want this to be the case, but there's a rodent named the gerbil that heard a little bit of news that maybe when we signed him, part of what took so long to announce him was that the Arsenal medical squad was debating whether he had some degenerative issue with his knees that wasn't going to prevent him from playing at the moment, but could potentially be a problem later. Is there any? I mean, I don't want that to be the case, but it would somewhat justify and legitimize the gerbil, who might have to then come back with a new Twitter account and announce some more stuff.
I must confess, I've never heard that suggested. I think there's a lot of admiration for the players, like physicality and strength, and I think that was one thing I heard really shone through. But he has had injury issues as well. I'm looking at what that specific injury is. It is a knee injury.
Look, but I don't. Well, and I have no connection with the gerbil, as we all know.
Yeah,
but I would not want him to be proven right on that situation, him or her.
So with Brazilians and injuries, is anyone else not worried that Martinelli is back a little bit too quick, or did he just not play enough in the Olympics for us? Was it more of a preseason for him?
Starter. He wasn't a regular starter. I think it was kind of like a non-club preseason. He played a bit off the bench, took some good penalties. If I answer Aston's question, I think part of it is that if you kind of want to move quickly up the Premier League, you do need players that know the Premier League. And that was the logic for Ben White. Like, let's get ourselves an experienced centre-back who can come in and play against. I mean, he has played against Brentford as well, but play against these teams because he already knows how to play against them. And maybe you're sort of looking to fill other pockets of the squad elsewhere. I mean, look, Aouar, for instance, mentioning Leon, Aouar is a player that they like, and they haven't really kind of moved to action it, or they hadn't for most of the summer. But just because, again, you're keeping your options open and seeing where will business get done. I know I'm going to unplug. Going back to today's question, I'm going to unplug.
It classes up the pod.
And it looks fantastic. I just don't move to the left or right, and you'll ruin it.
Also, I think every time Owen's camera goes off, he's going to play some snooker, and then he comes back because those balls are moving.
Owen's balls are moving is the news that James is breaking right now.
It's pool. That's a pool hit. You're a fake American, and you're still getting that wrong.
Pool balls are different colors, though.
No, don't be stupid.
Listen, I don't know how they do things in Ireland, okay? But
can we stop our infighting while we have James on the pod? I mean,
sorry, Daddy.
To see these family squabbles that we're having.
Yeah, it's been there's been a few little. It's fun though. Like you would expect after spending how many hours with Mike. I think the one thing that everybody can say unanimously is that most people would say that Mike is best taken in small doses and small increments, and I can definitely stand by that.
Wasn't James answering the question and then I screwed up by putting the comment about the tuxedo on and then we derailed you? What were we talking about here? Oh, Premier League players.
Oh yeah. Why we're not tapping into the European market more so than
and I'll actually reiterate the question, because if you're just listening to this and not watching it, then you wouldn't have seen it. But Aston Mack from Orlando asked, why we're not taking advantage of more financially strapped clubs on the continent, such as Lyon.
Aouar has been a player of interest, like a player on the radar that Arsenal would want to know if there's any movement from other clubs all summer. And he was last summer when they made bids that got rejected. I don't know why. So there's a homegrown problem as well, like particularly with somewhere like goalkeeper, they're really keen to make that next player homegrown, which leaves you with limited options, and they're not exploring all of them. It was interesting. I know that the Ramsdale stuff has collapsed. I think it will be Sam Johnston next. I know that there hasn't really been any contact over David Raya. But yeah, Aouar is a player that they like, and it will kind of come down to the mechanics of the deal, because don't forget, there's another cash-strapped team in Europe, Real Madrid, who may well feel compelled to sell you Martin Ødegaard for significantly less than Maddison, probably more than Aouar, but Ødegaard ticks kind of both boxes of you're exploiting a financial situation and you're getting a player that knows the Premier League pretty well. I know that everyone is not excited about Ødegaard. I don't know if that's just because people like new shiny things.
Mm-hmm.
There is that element to it.
What about the
Ødegaard's still pretty shiny in my eyes. I mean,
he's so underrated. He was the impact I think he had, not in terms of output, but in terms of other people growing around him was massive.
He hit the ground running too, which is not always the case with a younger.
And let's remember, he
on a loan deal.
He basically had played no football 6 months prior to that, and he was coming off injuries, and he sustained an injury as well. So I think we only seen the tip of the iceberg with Ødegaard. But James, another one people have been throwing out there is, and I know it's possibly an easy link to make, is Bernardo Silva. Do you see that as a realistic avenue that Arsenal could exploit, given how congested that Manchester City squad is at the minute?
I did a bit of digging on this. I couldn't quite get a convincing answer, because he's someone that obviously Arteta really admires and rates highly, knows how to get the best out of. But the salary would be really high. It would be quite a tough task, I think, to convince him. Push comes to shove, I think he would be obviously, he would favour, he really want a move to a Champions League team that's going to give him the sort of canvas that Arsenal would give him. He will want to play top level football, not Premier League and EFL Cup. So it's one to keep an eye on, but I don't think there's really been any indications towards Arsenal that Bernardo would be keen on that move. The trade off is what happens in 3-4 weeks out. But a couple of weeks time. If there's no other options emerging. For Bernardo's sake, I think it's a deal that they could come back to. But right now, I've not heard there being a huge amount of smoke and fire on that particular one.
Willock is they just announced officially $25 million.
So it's done. Yeah, I heard that. Who was it that was breaking? See, we're keeping James from breaking news here.
Has it happened? Has it gone through?
Yeah, Ornstein
just announced it, right?
And then James just wrote an article on The Athletic that just came out that was saying that Ødegaard is our primary target. OR would be backup. Maddison's likely not going to happen, and then Nito, the backup keeper from Barcelona.
I think that would be Nito.
Ear agent. Yeah, Maddison has been one I found hard to hammer down. Sometimes with these transfers, it is like trying to hammer down a river. Everything is flowing, and people are telling you things, but you have to be aware that what they're telling you is obviously aimed to suit a particular agenda.
So I've been saying since the start, I thought Maddison was always a smokescreen.
He's hugely expensive for what you get.
I think it was a smokescreen to show Real Madrid, hey, we've got this money, and it can be yours, because they're in desperate need of it. And I think Ødegaard is the player they want. I mean, and it seems like he would love to come here and sign a long-term contract. I think this would be a perfect club for him.
Yeah, and that and
I think
that,
he would still have doubts from what I've heard about.
Well, I think
long-term.
stepping stone, right? Because like the player he is, but I think he would be happy to come here and do a shift and like, I think he could be a player that brings us back up to that Champions League football as well. I mean, that's his caliber.
If he can't get in the Real Madrid team, Arsenal will be top of the list. That's definitely true. And I just don't. I've always found it really hard to buy into the idea that Arsenal would spend all that money on a player that would, in Maddison's case, compete with Smith Rowe, and certainly would compete, and may well start more than him this season. But if you think where Smith Rowe is, many more years of development to come. And both, Maddison is a real, you have to play him at the 10 player. Same's true with Ødegaard, obviously.
But hasn't he said that he's comfortable playing like in more of an 8 role himself?
Okay, 8-10, but if you're playing him as an 8, you're probably not playing Smith Rowe as an 8 as well. I don't really see those two fitting in comfortably at all. Whereas I actually feel like Smith Rowe fits better with Ødegaard and likes playing with Ødegaard, and I just have not got the hype around Maddison. It's
No. I thought there were matches last season where Smith Rowe and Ødegaard played together, and they switched positions almost like every 10 minutes, and it just caused a lot of confusion for defenders, midfielders, and I was like, this is really fun to watch. We just didn't get to see it enough.
The other thing as well is I think Andrew at Arseblog has consistently made quite a good point, which does worry me slightly, and it's that does giving Leicester 70 million, say, for example, to reinvest into their squad in exchange for us getting James Maddison benefit us more than it could benefit them? And that's a concern because whether people like it or not, they're probably our closest direct rival for those Europa League spots.
And he doesn't, he started most games, but he doesn't feel like taking Maddison off Leicester doesn't feel like you're really diminishing what Leicester can achieve. They'll just play Iosi Perez, or you could move Tielemans upfield and move Barnes to the 10, or Iheanacho. I think,
or take that 70 million and upgrade 3 different positions brilliantly.
Yeah,
I think that's a
and
really
still have 50 million left over to play with.
Yeah,
they're just better. They're better run than Arsenal. Like you look at their squad for next season, and I would take most of the Leicester starting 11. Exactly what Aston says. If you give Leicester 70 million, watch them play Aouar at the 10, and Guimaraes will be there ready to, step in for whichever of Tielemans and Ndidi leaves. I don't think you want to be, strengthening your direct rivals. It's different when Chelsea and Man United and City go and buy players from Leicester because, they're doing that to take a step away, step beyond what Leicester can achieve. But getting a starter standard player, not a star from Leicester, I'm not hyped about it. Maddison's good, but the end product has not always been there. It just, again, if it was the same price, I'm interested. He ticks more boxes as well with being homegrown, but as a club record signing, he doesn't grab me personally.
See, with that deal, James, we heard reports that, and whether they're true or not is a different story entirely, but reports that Joe Willock was one of the players offered in one of the deals for James Maddison in part exchange plus cash. Now that James Maddison has moved on now that Joe Willock has moved on for a substantial amount of money, do you think that dominoes start to fall now, and maybe these moves for the likes of Ødegaard and James Maddison may start to pick up over the next few days?
Yeah, it's a bit more cash in the bank, and it's an open squad space, and all those things matter a lot. I think when you look at this, just the sheer size of Arsenal's squad, I think when it was at the Tottenham game, I counted it as around 29 players.
Jeez.
So
those are all center backs too.
Yeah, and a lot of them are sort of really going to be a challenge to shift out, and if they're going to stay around, you may as well use them. If you hadn't got an offer for Willock, well, you kind of weren't going to just leave him in the under 23s anymore. So part of it is just clearing some physical space as well as topping up the budget opening space on the wage bill. But part of it is just there were so many players to work with. Again, Arteta was asked today whether he would do what he did with Mustafi and Ozil and Socrates again this summer, and he didn't really answer that question. But I think in the end, it might well have to come down to that they have to kind of shift some players on in very unfavourable terms for them, just to give Arteta a sort of sensible side squad to work with, because it's just huge.
James, if Arsenal remove players and buy out their contracts, like let's say Kolasinac, right? Mm-hmm. Does that end up going against the monies that were like under the financial fair play umbrella? If they buy out someone's contract, how does that work?
Cares about that anymore?
Not Paris.
It all still sits on the wage bill. I suppose it's the same. I guess it's a much more common thing in US sport, isn't it? The contract buyout on the final year of someone's deal, when you just sort of decide, whether it's a wide receiver. I as you guys know, I follow a lot of NBA, so you see it a lot, don't you? Where you just go, we don't need this guy around. He's expensive. Let's pay him X amount of his salary to leave. That X amount, like in the case of Mustafi, Ozil, Socrates, it was significant. Like from what I heard, part of the reason for getting that loan from the Bank of England was really just to pay some players to go away, to cut your costs, and they didn't earn much less than they would have just hanging around. In the end, someone like Kolasinac, who's on £100,000 a week, I'm sure he would like to go and play football elsewhere, but no one wants to go and take a pay cut for it. So Arsenal really have to sort of, however it'll work, they'll end up subsidising some of his wages in some fashion, whether that's a loan, transfer, or they just buy him out. Obviously, right now, they'd much prefer some form of transfer fee as compensation, but it's really hard to get in the current climate. And these players, I think we should also remember, these players would be really hard to shift in any market, because you pay them Arsenal wages, but players look at them and go, okay, you've got pretty much a large chunk of your squad on $100,000 a week plus, but they're only really performing at the same level as Aston Villa, Everton. These are mid-table Premier League players. So why would we want to pay them all this money? Like Kolasinac, Mustafi, Tate Ozil, none of them are going to teams that could afford to pay their wages and being stars. So no one's going to pay them like stars. Everyone else is too smart to do that. And Arsenal, sometimes it's a failure of scouting. You're always going to have to pay any Arsenal player that salary that is commensurate with their talent. That's one advantage of signing younger players, is that, Tavares not on a huge wage. Ben White is earning a decent whack. I think it's about 100 to 120 grand a week, which is good. It's certainly, it's more than I'm on, but just about more than I'm on.
It's less than we paid Theo Walcott, though, and I mean,
But is it counterproductive? Here's my question, and nothing to do with transfers at all, really. But when we talk about the mistakes of players like Kolasinac and Mustafi and the high wages that they're on, but then, and I'm not disagreeing with the club or the potential that these players have, but after one decent 6-month loan spell that Emile Smith-Rowe has been handed the number 10 jersey and a substantial wage increase, and then the same seemingly with Bukayo Saka and contracts being offered to Reece Nelson. Is the club jumping at fan opinion too much, trying to please them, signing these youngsters up to inflated deals too quickly and potentially putting ourselves into the exact same situation that we find ourselves in now, in a couple of years down the line, having a group of players who are underperforming on substantially high wages?
It's a good question. I mean, there's a couple of challenges. Are one, that these guys are performing and they are earning wages, and also when you get Saka, that was only his second professional contract. So his first deal, due to expire this summer. His first deal that they signed him to, you can only sign a 3-year contract. So in an ideal world, you'd see a player of Bukayo Saka's talent and go, we'd like to give you 6-7 years at 10 grand a week. And you kind of, obviously you make the player feel valued further down the line. But you remove the pressure to get his contract signed. But there was huge pressure to get Saka signed up because Dortmund were seriously looking at him. Liverpool were as well. Bayern Munich, from what I've heard, really, really wanted to try and get in the mix for Saka, and were readying a bid before COVID. Same with Smith Rowe. Obviously, the Aston Villa stuff was real. Every time we talk about Aston Villa's brilliant transfer window, we should remember that they missed out on one of their top targets. Yeah. And to enjoy pointing that out to all those Villa fans that told me he wasn't going to sign. So you have to. And in the end, I think Smith Rowe's deal is somewhere in the region of 70,000. I think that's pretty good.
Not bad.
Pretty fair enough. There's the homegrown tax, for want of a better word. There's the there's all those things like that mean you do have to pay homegrown players a little bit more. But Clive made a great point on Arsenal Vision, and this was specifically about Saka, but I kind of feel the same with Smith Rowe, that there's something about them that the fans love them and the club loves them, and you should. And he said that Saka was like Rocastle, and I think that's the level of
that is some high praise.
That's the level of infatuation we're getting to, and these are players that I think it would. Sorry, bear with me. Been sat still for too long. It would really hurt Arsenal and Arsenal fans to lose them, and I think you kind of can't help but let your heart lead the way a little bit and go, God, I just want these players here. You know, what does it take to get this deal signed and delivered? And I would give Bukayo Saka any amount of money to play for Arsenal and get a commitment for 5-6 years. He's fantastic. I don't particularly, we've all seen these guys do interviews. I've been lucky enough to speak to both of them a fair few times. They've got enough going on between their head that convinces you that this isn't like some, of course they might get Jack Wilshere, they might get a Jack Wilshere style kicking that spoils their career, but there's nothing that they can control that will stop them from being top class England internationals, top 4 players. So, I don't think it's too much to worry about that they're being paid big bucks already. I didn't love giving Smith Rowe the 10. I just thought that was a bit.
I'm gonna bring something back to this simply because Mike smiled to something he said a minute ago, which is probably in the wrong company to say such a thing. He says, "I have to move because I've been sitting still for too long," and right now that is like in the Titanic, like Rose lying on the door in the Atlantic Ocean saying, "Fucking water's cold, Jack, innit?"
I have sores that you wouldn't even imagine right now on my tuchus from sitting in the seat for 22 hours. But another thing I was laughing at was this. I've just gotten this notification. I predicted it when I played it. So we have it's not a copyright strike, but it is it's they're gonna take the monetization of the video that we're not monetizing anyway because it doesn't make any sense. So as long as we've been smacked for that, I'm gonna play the clip that we got smacked for because it is kind of funny, and I know our next guest will truly appreciate this. I don't know, James, if you're Andy's gonna absolutely hate this because of what it is, but where is it? Oh, you know what? It's on a different thing. But yeah, we got
wrestling
for playing Triple H for playing his music on the podcast.
Is it Charles Watts waiting in the room or whatever? If he is, I hope
Charles isn't in the room yet, but he is going to be here very shortly. You guys are friendly, correct?
No.
Of
course we are. He's fantastic, except his bizarre infatuation with wrestling.
Oh, we're going to start right off with it. It's going to be great. I love this from Charles, and we have a story already lined up that we're going to talk about. But this is what we got the copyright notification for. Yeah.
I love wrestling when I was 11 because I was an 11-year-old boy.
Yeah, Andy just perked up. Yeah, Andy's good. His next sentence is going to be more than likely at 11 you were a virgin, right? Because he's saying, despite knowing that I have 2 kids, he still claims that I'm a virgin.
You know what? Until I see the DNA test that I've been asking for years, your love and infatuation with wrestling is just weird.
It's neither love nor infatuation.
You go to watch it. You go to watch it and stuff, don't you?
He does.
Are you actually like one of those big American dudes?
And I will say this, he's created like mass chaos on Twitter because he holds up the Arsenal sides, and one of them he held up the Gooners. I think it was when we were still called Gooners in the USA, right?
Yeah, I had a Gooners in the USA, and one time even, and I was gonna wait until Charles came on to do this, but one time, where is it? I think the reason we got to like 5,000 or 6,000 followers as we did on Twitter was because of this. Got on a plane to head over to London to watch football. And
did you do the Wenger out one? Because
no, I would never do that. I would do Kroenke out before I did Wenger out, but I'm not the Wenger out guy. But I had a sign with the Arsenal crest on it. And I would buy up these tickets that I knew would get me on camera at the game. And I was wearing an Arsenal kit. Jake was with me and just mortified the whole time because I cared more about getting on camera with the Arsenal stuff than I did about like feeding him. And so this happened at SmackDown the 1,000th episode of SmackDown or whatever it was in DC, and Arsenal retweets it. And my phone exploded. Then the plane took off. And by the time we landed in London and got internet back again, it was like, it was almost gerbil-esque how much my phone was going off.
I mean, on the Wenger out thing, I obviously, was never Wenger out myself. Didn't suit. But I thought it was the summer after the FA Cup win when he was staying, and the signs really exploded. And there was almost a degree of fun of sort of like, where am I going to spot my next Wenger out sign? And I was at Glastonbury that summer, and there were about half a dozen people wandering around with Wenger out signs. And it was like the meme of that summer. And as dreadful as it was, like, to be campaigning for a man to lose his job, it was really funny.
It is.
It was. And Charles, welcome to the podcast, Charles Watts. We got 2 of the best in the business right now with us, and we're going to have a brief crossover. But Charles, we're going to get right off with the I was just showing off to James my crowning moment on Twitter, where that's me in the yellow circle holding up an Arsenal crest behind Edge at SmackDown 1,000. That was when we went from about 1,000 followers to 5,000 followers because of Arsenal. So
for a minute, I thought that was Edge's return at a Royal Rumble, and I was about to get so unbelievably jealous that you were there for that.
See, I'm so glad that this is happening right now because Andy has come onto the podcast that he founded for the first time in 20 hours about 20 minutes ago, and we're just talking about WWE. We have to do some housekeeping to keep to take care of, and then James, we got to let you go. I can feel the incredible amount of caffeine coursing through my veins right now. By the way,
keep Benge on for the WWE chat.
Oh God,
James, you're welcome to stay as long as you like.
Save yourself. Just log off.
Plausibly, I have work to do for once.
Okay, well, yeah, exactly. But we are gonna do our drawing. We have a drawing at the end of each hour. As we enter the hour 20, we need to do the final Gooners versus Cancer T-shirt. It will not be the one I'm wearing because A, it wouldn't fit you, and B, it smells. So where are we on our quest for $5,000 raised from just this show? We are at $4,752 of a goal. Now we're at $4,758.
People are just paying for me to leave.
I would never do such a thing. Yeah, well, you're now Siad Kolasinac. $4,758 of $5,000 goal over the entirety of the summer. We are now roughly $13,500 to $14,000 on our way to hopefully 30. It's just been an amazing time so far. Amazing 20 hours that we've been on the air, and now we need to do a prize drawing. So, if you will bear with me while I bring up the randomizer, and we pick the winner of the Gooners versus Cancer T-shirt, And bear with me here. Have you ever seen something so professionally done? I'll take that as a no. All right. The winner of the Gooners versus Cancer t-shirt is Eric Schlackman. Now we have a rule here which says if you've won 3 times because of a significant bid, we will not have your third win be something other than a player signed shirt, a team signed shirt, or a personalized Arsenal kit. So, Eric, I'm going to do you a favor and keep you in the drawing for later and draw another winner for this because you already have won 2 prizes because the numbers have been in your favor. So sorry, we're going to go back and pick another winner, and that winner is Rocky Santos. Rocky, thank you for your donation. Rocky has donated both for the PODATHON and as part of our FIFA tournament. Unfortunately, didn't make it too deep in it, but you've won a Gooners versus Cancer shirt, Rocky. Thank you so much for doing that. And James, you are now free to go if you want to go, but you're also free to stay.
I couldn't stand listening to Charles any more than I have to. No, thanks for having me, guys.
By the way, we'd like to welcome on another guest. Fabrizio Romano is coming. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, James, thank you so much. As if we don't already know, where can we find you and follow you and read all your incredible work on soccer?
Yeah, cbssports.com/soccer. You'll find all my great soccer content. On Twitter as well. I'm always pontificating about Arsenal, despite knowing I shouldn't, and arguing with people I really shouldn't argue with.
I truly love how many. I mean, outside of John Cross, and to keep your mouth shut, how many Arsenal Arsenal journalists are Arsenal supporters? I think it's great. It's weird.
Don't know what you talk about.
Great.
I'm completely objective.
So James, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate the support.
Thanks, James.
Talk to you soon.